Wonderful program on of inauguration of our celebrations of Women's Day, the week before the International Women's Day. It's the week preceding the International Women's Day. 8th of March happens to be International Women's Day, and we are celebrating this whole week starting from today, and today is the inauguration. We have the good fortune of having eminent personalities with us, both online and physically available over here. Their valuable presence is seen over here. We have the honor of the inauguration, which is going to be done by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao Garu. Namaste, sir. Welcome to you.
Namaste to all of you.
The chief guest of today's program, Madam Divya Devraj, IAS, Secretary and Commissioner for Women, Child, Disabled and Senior Citizens, an icon for the youth, an inspiration for the youth. She is working with as a Secretary and Commissioner for Women, Child, Disabled and Senior Citizens, Government of Telangana. Madam is here. Welcome, Madam.
Namaste.
We have our invited speaker, Madam Sankumi B. Madam, I request you to kindly unmute yourself and be visible on the video. Can you? Sankumi, Madam. Hope you are able to hear me.
Has she joined?
Yes.
She joins us.
Sankumi, Madam. Hope you are able to hear me. We welcome you, Madam. At the earliest, I would request you to unmute yourself and be visible on the video. I'll give you a call shortly. Madam is a Padma Shri awardee of 2021. She is the president of MHIP. She was a former director, Technical and Higher Education, Government of Mizoram, and former member and chairperson, Mizoram Public Service Commission. We have our guest of honor, Professor Alladi Uma, Madam. She was our own professor in University of Hyderabad. Madam, I hope you are there. Professor Alladi Uma, Madam, can you please be visible on the screen? Can you please unmute yourself and be visible on the video as well?
Can you see me?
Not yet, ma'am. Not yet. Maybe it's a little slow. Probably you should try on your phone as well, madam. Madam, yes.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Namaste and thank you very much.
Yeah. Namaste, madam, and welcome to you. And of course, we have the Dean, Students Welfare, Professor Nagaraju. He's here. We welcome. And the whole program is going to be presided by Professor Sunita Rani, Head Center for Women's Studies, a very appropriate position to hold this, to preside over today's program. Professor Sunita Rani, Madam. She is the Head Center for Women's Studies, University of Hyderabad. Welcome, Madam.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. We are very happy to collaborate with the SW's office in conducting this, particularly today's program. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. So from here, I think I'll hand it over to you, Sunita Rani, Madam, to carry on the whole. Sankumi, Madam, is there. Madam, namaste.
Namaskar, madam. Namaste, madam. Namaste, madam.
You have to unmute yourself, Madam. You have to press unmute. Yes. Madam, I think even your mask may obstruct. If it is okay with you.
Yeah.
If it is okay with you.
Okay.
Just as unmute, maybe I should say unmask as well. If it is okay with you. Welcome, Madam.
Thank you.
So I hand over now the baton to Professor Sunita Rani, Madam.
Thank you, Dr. Padmaja. As I began by saying, we are very happy to collaborate with the SW's office, and we are very happy to be here in this session with our esteemed guests. Women's studies, as we all know, is like some of our researchers, scholars have said, women's studies or research in women's studies is a political project. That is, we are very ideological. So when we celebrate Women's Day, we also welcome women like Ms. Divya Devraj garu, Ms. Sankumi, Professor Alladi Uma, who have not only excelled in their careers, but also have extended their expertise to others, to many others, who have extended a helping hand to many others. And as women's studies discipline, as scholars and students of women's studies, we do believe that decision-making power is very, very crucial for women. And here we see three very, very powerful women who have not only made a decision, but who have helped others, who have enabled others, empowered many others in making their decisions as administrators, as activists, as teachers at different levels. So I extend a warm welcome first to our eminent guests, speakers. Once again, Ms. Divya Devraj garu, IAS, Ms. B. Sankhumi garu, and then Professor Alladi Uma. I'm sure today what they are going to speak, what they're going to share with us will be much more empowering for many of us who are sitting in the audience and carefully listening to them. International Women's Day, as we all know, started from the corners of working class context. Those working class women, when they raised their concerns, started raising their voices, gradually it emerged into a movement, into a celebration of Women's Day. And here we again come across these successful women in their particular careers who have valued work a lot, who have in fact, like I said, it might be a repetition saying so many times, but from the level of education to work, many others, starting from young people to many women have been empowered with their help. We know what they have contributed to work and gender. Once again, I extend a warm welcome and I also thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao, and our Vice Chancellor, Professor R.S. Raju, for joining. I now invite Professor B.J. Rao to inaugurate the program, please, and share a few words with us. Sir, Professor B.J. Rao.
Namaste to all of you. I hope I am audible and visible. Yes? Someone give a thumbs up, please. Am I audible?
Okay, nice.
Okay, very good. Good to have a thumbs up from a respectable women member there. Fantastic. So this is a very auspicious day because it is not only Women's Day, but also it's a day where we are actually listening to and paying attention to women. It's not just a day. So amidst us, we have accomplished women members. Ms. Divya Devraj garu, IAS officer, who is taking care of very important portfolio in the state of Telangana. She's looking after women, child, disabled, senior citizens portfolio. A very blessed portfolio, in my opinion, where she will be able to enrich her services towards very deep corners of the society. So thank you, madam, for coming by here.
My pleasure.
And being physically present in the meeting. And I am also welcoming Ms. Sankumi, who is a Padma Shri awardee, a very well accomplished person in technical and higher education. She has ably handled Mizoram Public Service Commission portfolio, and she is extremely well accomplished in her activities. Welcome you, madam, to University of Hyderabad. When things become better, we will have you physically here so that we can interact with you much more closely. But this is the next best we could do now, today. I also want to welcome Professor Alladi Umagaru, whom I don't see on the screen, but I'm sure she is there somewhere. Thank you, madam. Yes. And of course, Professor Sunita Rani Garu for chairing the session. Namaste, Umma Madam Garu. We have
Namaste.
other, Namaskaram. We have other colleagues on the screen. I want to welcome all of you on this very important day. So it's a part of International Women's Day celebrations. International Women's Day is meant not only as a celebration, but also to develop deep respect for the contribution that womankind has made to the mankind. We have not done enough in terms of respecting them, recognizing their contributions, etc., etc., etc. And therefore, now the society is trying to compensate by doing all these important activities. You will not see Men's Day. Obviously, we need to do Women's Day because over generations, over variety of cultures, across centuries, mankind has not harnessed the powers of women, the contributions of the womankind towards the society that they have made. And I think we have made a good beginning. This is just a good beginning. We should do this very, very well in the years to come. Now, womankind are the sources of this humanity. You know, we are all products of women's biology. Very, very intimate products of women's biology. Entire mankind is a product of women's biology. It is not only a simple product. In fact, we now know as geneticists that entire mitochondrial system that mankind receives is only for women, from our mothers. Mitochondria are the powerhouses of all our body physiology. So in fact, our mothers contribute to those powerhouses, our centers in all the mankind. You can see this beautiful asymmetry nature has set up. So all our power comes from our mothers, period. There is no debate on that. So you can see that there is a tremendous contribution that the mother kind makes, not only at biological level, but also at societal level, at spiritual level, at every level. So let us make a good beginning by not only celebrating Women's Day, but also actually implementing the spirit of Women's Day in all our activities. So this is the short message that I am giving you from the bottom of my heart. And I want to implore all of you to be part of this celebration for the days to come, for the months to come, for the years to come. Thank you very much. Welcome all of you once again. Namaste.
Thank you very much, sir, for that message. There is a small change in the schedule. According to the schedule, Professor Raju was to speak now, but since Ms. Divya Devraj Garu has to leave early, may I now request Ms. Divya Devraj Garu to speak, our chief guest to speak. Divya Devraj Garu is not just known as an IAS officer, but she is also known for the way she has functioned wherever she has gone, in whichever capacity she has worked. Different people know her in different ways in her different capacities, but everybody has been saying like how she has touched her lives. Now, I think that is the most important contribution that a committed administrator can contribute. Thank you so much for all that we have heard, and we want to hear from you on this day when we are rethinking about the gender roles, functioning of gender roles, the way women are represented. We are really critically rethinking. And on this occasion, we would really like to listen to you speaking from the field. Thank you, Ms. Devarajan, Divya Devarajan. We are looking forward to listening to you. Please.
So, Madam Professor Sunita Rani, Madam, with the permission of you and VC Sir and Madam, may I very quickly introduce Madam in 2 minutes, Madam Divya Devraj Garu in 2 minutes? Is that fine, Sunita Rani madam? Hope you are able to hear me.
Yes, yes, Dr. Padmaja, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Please.
So, well, I don't think 2 minutes would be sufficient, but I'll try. Divya Devraj madam is an IAS officer of 2010 batch, a very young, dynamic leader, and is currently serving as Special Secretary, Department of Women, Children, Disabled and Senior Citizens for Government of Telangana, and Commissioner for Women Development and Child Welfare, DCW Department. She is an alumna of Pilani University with MSc Honours and BE Honours and Electrical and Electronics. Well, that is her educational and academic background, but let me also tell you her achievements right from the beginning. While when she was the trainee, she had this award. She was chosen to be the best officer trainee of her batch way back in 2008 in the 82nd Foundation Course for Central Civil Services at our MCR HRD, Dr. MCR HRD Institute at Hyderabad. She also won the prestigious Subhash Dua Memorial Gold Medal in 2010 for her IAS training at Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, Missouri. Now, well, that is awards, academics, and whatnot. Let me tell you her involvement in the activities of the people and how close, as Professor Sunita Rani has been mentioning, how close she went to the people. Now, we all know Adilabad district, we all are here right now, and Adilabad is pretty close to us. In her services, the people of Adilabad district named a village as Divya Guda. What's her name? Divya. And the name of the village is Divya Guda. Well, in fact, I was getting these goosebumps as I was reading about her. For her services, of course, there are certain jokes that she cracks about the village being named as Divya Guda and all, but nevertheless, a village being named at such a young age. She's a 2010 IAS batch officer. And then she has also won Outstanding Woman in Public Service category award by Inadu Group and an award from Chief Electoral Officer Telangana and State Election Commissioner for effective conduct of elections in her tenure while she was the Collector of Adilabad. Well, I think I'll stop over here. Probably her services have already shown in her name being given to a village by the villagers, and her words are going to speak volumes now. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Professor. It's a great honor to be in Hyderabad Central University, a center for learning and a center for progressive thoughts and leadership. So I thank the Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao, sir, who himself is a role model to many of us, for having me here. And I'm very what can I say? Honor is a small word, and the kind of things that the professor has read out for me, please don't take it at face value, because awards and rewards, many people get it. It's not a big deal. But let me speak to you heart to heart, so that we can have a direct conversation. I also would like to offer my namaste to Ma'am Sankumi. It's such an honor to share a stage with you, ma'am. You're a Padma Shri awardee, and it's an honor to be along with you. And I also thank the other professors, and especially Professor Sunita Rani, who has also taken out her time to invite me. Now, having said this, I would like to talk about women in different spheres of life. So, women empowerment does not mean that we say that women are superior to men. All that women ask is to be treated equally in all spheres without any bias. So, breaking the bias is one of the important things that I would like to talk about. In our society, especially the Indian society, there's a lot of bias from the day we are born. Since I'm heading the Women and Child Welfare Department, so I can say with some conviction that the bias starts even before we are born. So this is related to several misconceptions and preconceived notions that as a society we are made to believe. So I would like to share certain experiences and cite certain examples which I have come across, where breaking the bias is extremely important. And as Professor BJ Rao sir told, that it is extremely important that if a society has to go forward, then the contribution of women is extremely important. So I will start with my birth. The day I was born, my paternal grandmother was extremely upset that a girl baby has been born. So she said, we expected a prince, but unfortunately there is a princess. So for which I think my mom took a lot of offense that how could you say that? And I think over the years, my parents and my grandparents now realize that at least I'm equivalent to a boy child or even more. So this particular grit and the aspiration to excel, to make use of every opportunity comes from my mother. My mother is the fourth girl child out of 12 children from her mother. So just imagine to be born as a fourth girl child in the year 1954. So the day she was born, I think it was a sad day for their family. And my grandmother was threatened that she would be married off to another, my grandfather would be married off to someone else because she doesn't produce a male child. But I would like to also say my mom went on to become one of the first few dentists in her small town, and she still practices dentistry even at the age of 67. And even yesterday she sent me a WhatsApp message saying that I had a difficult tooth removal and I still succeeded in doing it. So the bias I would like to talk about is that it was okay for women to become doctors, but when my mother became a dentist, it was a unique problem because the society is used to having women wearing stethoscopes, and the stethoscope could be kept on your chest, and that was not a problem. Women could perform surgeries, that was also not a problem. But suddenly a young lady now is going to leave her hands inside your mouth. That was not considered a great thing. So she was very worried as to how she's going to practice. So I also would share on a lighter note that, people would come to see her to see if she's strong enough to pull out teeth. Because how can ladies pull out teeth? Do they have the enough strength? But I would like to say that till date, she's more than 30 years of service as a dentist. I think she's done a wonderful job. So to be the first in her town to be a dentist and break all biases and go ahead, that kind of set me from the beginning that, it's not that women cannot do a certain profession, but it's just that women do it differently and they have a lot of talent to offer. So I come from a very normal middle class family, and I used to use public transport only and still do when I go to my home. So when there used to be a lot of eve teasing and other things which I used to experience, and overcrowding in the buses, then I used to wonder, why can't we be the change that we want to see in the world? But for a young woman to aspire to join the civil services, it's not considered very easy because we need to be married at a certain age. We can't afford to go to different cities to prepare. Who will pay for the coaching cost, and so on and so forth. Thankfully, I was blessed with parents who didn't have any bias, and I could go to Missouri and become an IAS officer. But I would like to share where the bias begins. So I chose to go to work in tribal areas. Usually there is a bias that women would like to only stay in cities and they would not want to go to tribal areas to go and work. So interestingly, the bias which I experienced first came from my driver. So my driver asked, "Madam, why did you choose to come and work in Bhadrachalam? This is a left-wing extremism area. And just a few months back, the neighboring collector has been kidnapped. And few years back, the other neighboring collector was kidnapped. So why would you want to work in this area? So I didn't know what to tell him and where to begin, because he felt that the forests and the mountainous areas are a big hurdle for a person like me to work. But later he realized that probably at least I went to those remote areas as much as my male colleagues. And the power for the Indian Administrative Service officers doesn't lie in their physical strength, but in the power of their pen. So the number of decisions that we make, and those decisions are made in paper and also by interacting with the people on the ground. So compassion and empathy is some strength that women do have, if not for the physical strength. So I successfully completed my tribal tenure in Bhadrachalam. And then I was again asked by the government to specifically go to Adilabad to work when the entire district was in a turmoil. And when the district was in turmoil, usually you would assume that there would be probably a male officer posted there. But the government chose a lady officer to go and work there because of the previous experience of working in a tribal area earlier. And the combination of myself and my SP, Vishnu S. Warrior, we were able to quell the, or at least soothe the kind of law and order problem that was existing there. Two different tribal groups were trying to have a very big antagonistic struggle. But we were able to talk to them and give them the options that they have other than a violent struggle, and we're able to at least lead the district to a peaceful path. So most of these experiences I'm sharing because it's not that women cannot do a certain task. We just do it with a little bit of a different strategy, and that strategy differs from person to person, and that if appreciated can definitely lead to a lot of diversity and progress in our nation. So it was very interesting. In once when I was a young adolescent, I happened to visit Indian Institute of Science, and there I heard a very interesting lecture by one of the professors there, that we always expect people to be of a certain quality, of a certain profile. So if you think of a doctor, then you think of a male doctor with a stethoscope walking briskly. We all have certain images in our head. So this is called this boiling pot model, that whatever character or difference that a person might have, then if you put it into that khichdi pot, then everyone turns out to be tasting the same and they come out of the same nature. If we have such models, then it will be boring and we'll not be able to solve many problems. But if you can think of any society or even in any office like a bouquet of flowers, so each flower has its own fragrance, has its own nature, has its own beauty, but that office consists of that bouquet, and different people have different roles to play and they play it differently. Then naturally the office or the country or the society will bloom like a bouquet of flowers rather than a khichdi which tastes the same in the boiling pot. So we would definitely want diversity in our offices, inclusion in our offices and in our society for us to progress. So it's a very interesting thing that, these days this word is used a lot, which is called STEM. So there is a lot of bias in STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering and mathematics, where people feel that women are not good enough to participate in STEM. So you are very lucky to have Professor B.J. Rao sir from TIFR to be here, where he has seen a lot of talent in science from the women as well. And since he's leading your university, I'm sure he's the best role model all of you can have for encouraging women in science. But I would like to say that the bias still exists in the society. So what do we do to break this bias? So as all of you know, I know of Mariam Mirza Khani, who is a Fields medalist in mathematics, who's the only woman who has got her Fields medal. Unfortunately, she's not with us anymore. I think she succumbed to cancer. But I would like to say that when I grew up, I had a friend in school who used to beat us all in mathematics hands down. And she was from a Sindhi community, which is they say that people from Sindhi community can only be business people and they're not good in mathematics. But she used to beat all of us. And interestingly, my computer science teacher when I was in school, say 20 years back, was a lady, and she used to teach us coding very nicely, and we all cracked our CBSE with her expertise. So I think the bias in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics should definitely be removed. And when many children, especially girl children, are allowed to explore such fields, I'm sure we would have breakthroughs in many fields, and we will have the bouquet of flowers, as I indicated, rather than a person trying only one model and using only one method. I would also like to talk about one last thing, is that women are always discriminated when they are married and when they have children. So they feel that once a woman gets married and have children, they cannot contribute to the society anymore, or they become lethargic, or they have other roles to play. I think this is also a very big bias which needs to be shaken, which needs to be broken. For this, I would like to share a personal experience with a friend. I have a friend in the IAS, my same batchmate called Vimala Ranganathan. She is right now the district magistrate of Kalimpong district. She hails from a small town in Tamil Nadu. She got married very early in her life, and in her first pregnancy, she had twins. So she had to take care of her family and the babies, and yet she managed to crack the civil services examination and went on to become an IAS officer, and right now leading a district in a remote area of West Bengal called Kalimpong. So I feel that if the male partner and society as such do not create hurdles for the women, then I'm sure they will definitely reach higher targets. So this bias also should go, and women with children or women with spouses are similar to the male counterparts. It's only that the roles is still not clearly defined, that men should more and more come into taking care of the children and taking care of sharing the household responsibilities, if I may say so. But I think the society is changing and we are going towards a more progressive and an inclusive society. I feel that there is only a good and positive future. We all should contribute to it in a very small way, and that can begin at home. So if you have your girl children, please allow them to dream, please allow them to explore, and allow them to reach their goals without having any bias or the glass ceiling which they will be forced to shatter. So I hope I have at least inspired a few of you. Being it post lunch session, 15 years ago I was that side, so mostly we used to sleep off during such invited lectures. But I hope today has been definitely at least a thought-provoking session. So most of you would be thinking about your future, and all my male counterparts and colleagues who are listening to it, it would be wonderful if you can support your partners, your mothers, your sisters, and your friends in achieving their goals. we will definitely have a much better and progressive society. So thank you so much, sir, for inviting me. Thank you so much, everyone, for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. And all the very best. And I hope many of you would be sitting this side as chief guests in the coming future. And I wish you all the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Divya Devrajan Garu. I think your life and your work are equally inspiring for us. And your words are also very, very inspiring. Breaking the bias, breaking exclusion, such important words. Yes, we all keep fighting the bias, keep fighting exclusion. As it is said, like 70% of a woman's energy is spent in breaking the obstacles, in crossing the obstacles, and in convincing people that we are equally capable, constantly trying to prove or make to prove themselves their caliber. Think if that 70% is also invested in work, in their aspirations, I'm sure women will be much more successful than they are now. Wish our society doesn't put these obstacles of exclusion and bias in the path of women. How can we not remember our mothers and grandmothers and our foremothers? We are standing on the shoulders of our mothers, grandmothers, and foremothers, really, whatever they have gone through, whatever they have struggled to achieve. And you rightly remembered your mother and grandmother. I'm sure even if it was a negative comment from your grandmother, it actually increased your determination to prove yourself. No, thank you so much once again for inspiring us. No, you did not allow us to sleep. Actually, you made us to think a lot more. A lot more. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and for addressing, for being with us for some time, despite your hectic schedule. We hope this interaction will continue, particularly from women's studies. There are a number of things that we would like to discuss with you and take the deliberations forward. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor.
Do we invite Professor Saraju now or?
No, madam. Sir is out of station. You please go to the next person.
Okay. Padmaja Garu, would you introduce the next speaker? I'll call upon the next speaker. Would you introduce?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor Sunita Rani, madam. Yeah, talking about breaking the bias, breaking the barriers, transcending the stereotypes, as Divya madam has rightly pointed out. I think we have one more inspiration. Like on the younger side, we had Madam Divya Devraj speak. Now we have a senior person, a Padma Shri awardee, Madam Sankumi, who is going to speak now. It's an honor, it's a pleasure, and yes, it's going to take a session to talk about Madam Sankumi, but let me very quickly talk about her. Well, I have to list out her awards. The awards start from school level over to the youth till Padma Shri. In fact, there's a list of awards and honors that she has. And coming to her academics and her career, she started off as a lecturer, then moved on to be the head principal, then over there, from there over to becoming a deputy director, secretary to Mizoram Scholarship Board, then joint director, technical education, then director, higher and technical education, government of Mizoram. From there over to being a member of Mizoram Public Service Commission and chairperson, Mizoram Public Service Commission for about 4.5 years. Well, huge journey of her career. And in addition to this, she has several experiences of working. I mean, she has experience of serving several non-governmental organizations as well. In fact, the list is voluminous. I will very quickly, as appropriate to the occasion, I think I'll very quickly list out the contributions that she had done for the Mizo women, like establishment of first de-addiction and counseling and rehabilitation center way back in 1990 in Mizoram. And then as a principal, she tried to strengthen the Zitiri Women's College, then establishment of Women Polytechnic at Aizawl, then establishment of collegiate girls and boys hostels, concession in physical fitness test for women in MPSC exam, rules for recruitment of MPS, and women empowerment as a theme for her MHIP, which she heads right now. It's a Mizo Women Association. And then talking about the Mizo Marriage, Divorce and Inheritance of Property Act, there were her efforts as president of MHIP in various ways and forms. Reservation of seats for women in local administration. Madam had a very important role to play over here. When Domestic Violence Act 2005 came into force in October 26, 2006, she convened a special assembly, MHIP special assembly in 2006, and passed a resolution pressing the Chief Minister to adopt Domestic Violence Act at the earliest, so that Mizoram becomes the first state in India adopting the act. She had an active role to play in all these. Of course, in addition to that, establishment of orphanage, display of writings on women's rights, a booklet produced on crimes against women and human trafficking. All in all, she focused heavily on the needs of women and their participation in politics and in decision-making bodies, several decision-making bodies, appeals to for women to vote for women candidates without any party feelings, without any bias, contributions for women's health and others. And in addition to that, a lot of work in school education and higher education, sports and youth services, and others. Well, there are several activities. In fact, I have a whole list of her activities, but I would rather hand over to Professor Sunita Rani to invite Madam Sankumi to speak the valuable words of wisdom from Professor Sankumi, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Padmaja, for introducing our respectable guests. Sankumi, Madam, please may I now invite you, request you to speak, please, to address us.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Deputy Dean, Student Welfare and Head, Center for Health Psychology, Dr. G. Padmaja, who invited me to be a participant in this prestigious interaction hosted by a very famous and prestigious University of Hyderabad. Thank you so much, Padmaja, for inviting me. And I want to thank our chief guest, Mrs. Devraj, IAS, who had delivered a very inspiring message to the participants. I wish that all her speech be recorded and could be played in different parts of India, so that it will be a very encouraging, not only for women in this International Women's Day 2022, but it will be very encouraging and prestigious for the years to come. I want to thank Professor B.Z. Rao for his inauguration, and I also want to thank Professor R.S. Saraju, Pro Vice Chancellor, University of Hyderabad, and I also thank Professor G. Nagaraja, who managed this interaction. Again, I want to thank you all who are able to make me to be one of the participants and as an invited speaker. As already spoken by our chief guest, I might have been awarded different awards, and I already held different positions in the government as well as in the non-government organizations. Today, what I want to say is that the best thing in this world, in my heart of hearts, is to be a blessing for others. A blessing for others in different parts of the world. But I am sure that I cannot be of that person. But today, thank you so much for inviting me once again to be a part of participants in this prestigious session. As requested me by Dr. Padmaja, I'll share my experiences on this occasion, just to show that this may be a blessing for others in future. What I want to mention is that whatever I have achieved in my career have been done through lots of difficulties and hardships, but on this special occasion, I want to say that what is impossible is always been possible in due course, and if a woman struggled very hard and work hard, nothing is impossible in due course. First of all, as you have listened already, I started my career as a lecturer in the first government college in Mizoram, at Patsunga University College. And after that, I worked under the government of Mizoram in the Department of Higher and Technical Education, holding different posts like Deputy Director, Joint Director, and Director. And after that, I joined the biggest Mizo women organization in Mizoram, which is called MHEP. And it is through this women association that I, with the help and cooperation of my friends, that we were able to achieve lots of things for especially for women. And you know, the Mizos are previously known as the Lusais. We came from the northwest of China and moved downwards to the present Mizoram. Without proper administration under the chiefs, while moving downwards from Burma, between the river Rhone and Tiao. As we came to know from history that they settled down there for 200 years, and only from there that they started having the chiefs for administration of the society. And among them, all the time, might was right, always fighting for leadership amongst themselves. That is why the Mizos were white fighters, and the British called us headhunters. Therefore, the Mizo society has been a very strict and stringent patriarchal society. According to the Mizo customary law, a woman had been deprived of many rights, like a woman had no right to inherit. She had no right to inheritance, either as her husband's or her father's property, even as a lone and only girl child. Number two is a woman had no share at the time of divorce with her husband. Neither over movable nor immovable property. Still, even gifts that were given to her at the time of marriage, she didn't have any share at the time of divorce. And at the same time, she could be divorced by her husband anytime, saying just one sentence: I divorce you. Kamate. Much shorter than the Muslims' words. Talak, talak, talak. At least the Muslims had to say three times. But in our Mizo traditional way, a husband had to say kamate, only that much. And what is very hateful is that there was no harm in wife beating. A husband can beat his wife anytime, and no one was allowed to help her except when she ran to the neighbor's house for help, and when her husband followed her to the neighbor's house, and the owner of the house had to protect her, and he had to drive her husband out of the house. And moreover, there was no adultery for a husband. A husband can do anything with another girl. He cannot be called as adulterer. But if a wife is adulterer, she had to leave the house empty-handed. And in ancient period, she had to leave the house in bare body. She had to be taken of all her clothes. And till today, the churches in Mizoram did not allow and doesn't, so to say, they don't allow any ordination for women as a pastor or a church elder. And there were so many sayings in the Mizo, many sayings very insulting to women in the Mizo society, such as, a crab and a woman have no religion. Another saying is, a woman's word is not a word. As a craftsman, meat is not a wife. As a craftsman, meat is not a meat. And another saying also goes like this: a woman's wisdom doesn't cross a village water spring. And at the time of divorce, there is also a very common saying: an old fence and the old women are usually changed. And there is also a saying that even an old bullock wants a fresh green grass. That is the traditional mindset of the Mizos and the traditional customary laws compiled by the superintendent, the British superintendent, while they occupied Mizoram. That superintendent consulted all the chiefs, or not all, actually, lots of chiefs, and collected their versions and put them in writing and compiled in a book which became the basic rules for administration of the whole Mizo community. As these traditional customary laws had been put in writing, it had a strong and deep-rooted influence in the mindset of the whole community, including women. Mizo women believed that their status and position in the society was as set by God. Gender equality was regarded as against the will of God, and gender equality is something to set aside God's design. See, after knowing the mindset of the whole community, and especially the mindset of the women folk, I feel that the best thing to do equality, gender equality and women's empowerment is to make women's empowerment awareness campaigns. Awareness campaigns is the basic need in the Mizo society. So that is why, to do this gender equality, I decided, I feel that the best thing to fight is from MATP, the biggest women organization, women association in Mizoram, having more than 750 branches in and outside the state. I was invited to join this MATP 3 times, and at last on the 3rd invitation, I joined way back in 1995, while I was the joint director in higher and technical education. And I was elected as president for 3 terms. Each term is 2 years, and occupied different posts like vice president and different OB posts. And I was in the MATP headquarters for 19 years together. And luckily, I was successful in a sense that I joined this MATP mainly because of the principle of women empowerment. And the first time I joined in 1995, I suggested women empowerment to be the theme of MHEP. And in the first MHEP General Assembly, it was agreed and passed as a theme of MHEP for the next 2 years. And luckily, Women Empowerment was passed by the General Assembly of MHEP continuously for 16 years together. And it is with this, it is with this idea that we are able to go forward and quite successful. The first success which I want to mention is to change the whole community is the passing of the Mizo Marriage, Divorce and Inheritance of Property Act, 2014. I was elected as president in 2005 for the first time. As soon as I joined in April 26, 2005, I convened a meeting, and with the permission of the executive committee, 3 women bills were prepared. We invited senior advocates to prepare these bills, the Mizo Christian Marriage Bill, the Mizo Inheritance and Succession Bill, and the Mizo Divorce Bill, all in 2005. These draft bills, when they finished to discuss this bill, we organized a seminar. I should say Women Empowerment Workshop on 16 December 2005, in the same year, inviting all MHEP leaders, the existing and old leaders, all NGO representatives of all NGOs, representatives of women wings of all the churches, and veteran citizens, and representatives from all women organizations and student unions, so on and so forth. And these draft bills, after very careful scrutiny, we submitted for legislation by the Mizoram Legislative Assembly on 1st June 2006. And with all possible pressures, although election was to be held in November 2008, the cabinet that time asked me, which one do you like most? We are not able to pass these 3 bills at a time. Which one do you think the most important? I said, divorce bill is most important, because this is the basic cause of all social evils in Mizoram. A woman was divorced, and in order to feed her children, she had to occupy a rented building in the suburbs area, selling drugs, selling liquors, and selling herself. So they were so much convinced, and Mizo Divorce Ordinance was passed in 2008, October 4. The election was to be held in November. And we celebrated that ordinance being the first Mizo women legislation. But in that election, a new ministry came, not the existing one, and opposition party came into power. And we submitted applications and discussed the matters with the chief minister, governors, law ministers, and all important persons. At last, we were successful, and they combined these three bills into one as the Mizo Marriage, Divorce, and Inheritance of Property Act. It was passed on 12 November 2014. This was the first great success of women's bill. And another great achievement of our MHEP, together with me, is that there's Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005. As soon as this act was put into force from October 26, I was the president. I convened a special assembly, inviting the chief minister to be the chief guest, and tried to convince him to adopt that Domestic Violence Act, so as Mizoram to be the first state adopting this act. But of course, we are not. This was very, very important for women in Mizo society, because wives beating, there is no harm in wives beating, and there is no harm in children's beating. With all possible measures, at last it was adopted in 2007, and MHEP was appointed as a service provider. Another great success was reservation of women in the local administration, reservation of seats for women in the local administration. Time and again, we used to pass in our General Assembly, Special Assembly, and in many occasions, we are asking for this reservation of seats. Of course, we had in municipal corporation, but with the measures we governed, we are under excluded area, and we are still using this Village Council Act which was made during the British period. And at last, luckily, one evening, I got an invitation from one IS officer from Ministry of Panchayat Raj, Government of India. He telephoned me and asked me whether I would have time to have discussion on women's reservation. I said yes. Then due to the advice from some friends, he invited me. He's an IS officer, and he told me that he came to Mizoram 5 times. That is he said this is the 5th time to implement a reservation of women in the village and local council administration, making some amendments in your existing Village Council Act and adding some provisions of Panchayat Raj, so that you'll be able to have funds from the central, and you'll have to concede 33% seats to women. And he wanted me to mobilize the community. And I said, let me see. And he He told me that he came 5 times to Mizoram for this, but the church didn't allow, the existing government didn't allow, no non-government organization wanted to implement. I feel very bad not to be successful for implementation of this. So I said, I'll try to help you. And from the next day, I consulted all the leaders of NGO and I convened a meeting, and with their permission, in the name of MHEP, we organized a seminar and requested advocates under the government as well as the university to present papers. And we convened a meeting, we organized a seminar. Luckily, in that seminar, a resolution was passed accepting reservation of 33% of seats for women and amendment of the existing village council, and a resolution was passed unanimously, which was submitted to the government. And with the pressure from Additional Secretary Mr. Panda, IS officer, at last, Lusai Hills Village Council Amendment Act 2014 was passed on 12th November 2014, permitting 33% reservation of seats for women. This is a great success. And another one is that MHTP is the biggest women organization, and there is also another big NGO, this community-based organization, which is called Young Mizo Association. The rising day of YMA is observed as a state holiday. But MHCP Day of 6th July was put only in the list of restricted holiday. I feel so bad. While I was the vice president, I contacted the leaders to include MHCP Day as a state holiday. Luckily, I was successful, and MHCP Day was observed from 2005 as a state holiday. That was the year when I became the president of MHCP for the first time. And whenever there was crimes against women, we the women used to make street procession with slogans without knowing how to do about it properly. So I prepared a booklet on crimes against women and human trafficking. And this we distributed to all branches in the whole state, and this spontaneously stopped street processions And nowadays, MHCP never held any street procession against crime against women. And we came to know what kind of actions to be taken. And while I was the chairman of the Mizoram Public Service Commission, I came to know that at the time of interview for recruitment of Mizoram Police Service, there was never any women candidate in the interview. While there were quite a good number of women for Mizoram Civil Service. When I inquired about it, they said no women could qualify physical fitness test. That's why no one was able to come for interview. So when I became the chairman, I convened a meeting of the authorities in police service, and I discussed the matters with them. And on the strength of our discussion, we reviewed the recruitment rules in the Mizoram Public Service Commission exam rules and made special concession for women in line with EPSC rules and Mizoram police recruitment rules. From that time onward, a woman is able to qualify for Mizoram Police Service. And under the Department of Higher and Technical Education, I was appointed as a principal of Zitir Women's College. Why I want to mention about this is, this Zitir Women's College was the first and only women college in Mizoram. It was a private college. It was taken over by the government of Mizoram, and I was posted as a principal for the first time. And with the help of the officials, my colleagues, I was able to get the site for the college, and I was able to get the fund for construction of a new building. And within 1 year of my joining as a principal, we shifted that college to its own site and its own building. And home science subject, which was a new subject, not only in the level of pre-university permission, I was able to get permission to establish the full course of the home science course. And luckily, there was one subject which was not even under the Northeastern Hill University, that is food and nutrition. But the Vice Chancellor granted me, and we were able to start the course. And there is also, but when I left the college as a principal, they demanded a male principal, and male principal was posted, and afterwards, the college itself was, changed into co-educational college, calling Zetiri Residential Science College, though it was not a residential at all. Now there is no women college in the whole state of Mizoram. This is really a tragic incident. And another interesting thing for women is when I joined as joint director of technical education, I found that in the bottom of the file, I found one paper lying there. When I read it, it was a permission to establish a women's polytechnic at Aizawl. When I asked the director, he told me, what shall we do with women polytechnic? It's of no use. So I told him, no. It's the issue of UNO, establishing women's institutions. So I started processing because the permission was already obtained from All India Council for Technical Education. And when we submitted permission from government of Mizoram, it took 1 year. Many times I contacted the authorities and even the minister. They said, wait. I had to wait for 1 year. And at last a proposal came out to establish Aizawl Polytechnic instead of Women Polytechnic, to make a co-educational polytechnic. But with the permission of the director, I occupied one rented building in the middle of Aizawl city, started working, and at last the government approved establishment of Women Polytechnic in 1998, September. And luckily I was appointed as a project director of World Bank assistance. And we make a project for establishment of Lunglei Polytechnic, the establishment of technical education, and establishment of Women Polytechnic Complex. And at last we are able to establish Women Polytechnic Complex within Aizawl city. And also, I want to mention just one more point. That is, no, not only 1 point, 2 more. One more. One is establishment of the first Women De-Addiction Center in Mizoram, which is called Zariko Kwalbu. I was one of the founding members. All the other members were men. I and one old woman, only 2 of us were women members. But luckily, they always obeyed my words. And in the initial stage, I was the project director. Used to go to Delhi and pressurize for granting aids and all. And then I was able to obtain that permission and also granting aid. And one thing which is noteworthy is we open vocational trainings for the patients. Vocational trainings in in tailoring and beauty culture. This is very helpful, and the patients, after recovery, many patients utilize their trainings for their own entrepreneurship and self-support in their respective homes. We feel that this is very successful. And the other one is establishment of an orphanage home under MHEP. The government has given us grants and the MP funds and MLA funds we received for establishment of orphanage home. But nobody wanted to establish the home itself. Well, I was the vice principal. Oh no, I'm as the vice chairman of MHCP. Somehow or the other, we are able to establish that orphanage home. And the next year, I was elected as the president, and during my tenure as president of MHCP, we were able to get adoption permission, and during my tenure, 13 children were given out for adoption, and running aid were also obtained from our Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And with the help of my friends and colleagues in MHCP as well as in the government, I was able to achieve lots of things. But I am not to be proud of all my achievements, because my achievements are made not by me. It's the products of all cooperation with others. It is a social work. And knowing this, Government of India selected me to be an awardee of Padma Shri in social work. I'm very glad that I was selected on social work, because it's not my work, it is the work of we all women together, and with my colleagues in the department as well. So again, to close my speech, my presentation, I want to repeat again that whatever things we want to accomplish or whatever we want to do, if a person works so hard with sincerity, which is not possible in the first, which may not be possible in the first trial, it will be possible in its own time, or it will be possible in due course or in due time. Therefore, whatever I mentioned about my career, I want it to be sustainable for tomorrow, for the future generation. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Sankumi. I think such an inspiring life, untiring battles that you have fought throughout your life, all your achievements, all the awards that you have received on one hand, and the battles that you have fought on the other hand. No, it's very important as women's history, all that you have said now, if you could share, if you could document it and share it with us, it would be a very important archival material for us, particularly in women's studies. I think it is time that we should really start archive. A lot of women's histories have been documented, but many more histories need to be documented as well. And rightly, you have brought in the regional context as well. Women is not a homogeneous category depending on the region and the other identities as well. Our battles keep changing, and our goals, our aspirations keep changing. Really, thank you so much for sparing time for this event and making us think once again about the importance of documenting histories, particularly women's histories. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I now, I'll try to introduce our guest of honor. I'm saying I will try to introduce because here is a person who has brought a change in thought, who has brought a change in a discipline, in a department, in terms of curriculum, in terms of introducing new literatures, new movements, new ideologies. Professor Alladi Uma, who took voluntary retirement from the Department of English and moved from higher education to primary education. The way she brought a change in the field of English literature by bringing in African American literature, women's literature, Dalit literature, translations from Telugu into English. She's making a difference in school education as well, in primary school education. Her trust has adopted schools in tribal areas, and she is regularly with teachers and students in the schools. We can see the way she has gone from higher education to primary education itself shows her commitment. I know that she doesn't like lengthy introductions and praising her too much, but I know I have to acknowledge here that it is not so much her achievements that matter for us on an International Women's Day, but the change that she has brought in, the difference that she has made to an academic atmosphere with her work, with her teaching, with her supervision, with her interactions. I think that is the most important contribution. My request, Professor Alladi Uma, the guest of honor for today's session, to say a few words to us, please. Professor Uma.
Can you see me now? Can
We
you hear
can't
me?
see you.
Can you see
Yes,
me now?
we can see you now.
Okay.
Partly.
I would like to thank Professor Rao, Professor Nagaraju, Professor Padmaja, and should I thank Sunita for
No
asking
need.
me to be with you this evening. I'm deeply touched that you have referred to me as a guest of honor, but I would put it the other way around. I'm honored to be a part of the university once again. I consider myself an outside insider. So what I say is something that comes from my experiences with all of you in the university. I didn't see my name as one of those who would speak. And so I thought I would be silent. And I feel silence speaks a lot. But women have always been silent. And women have to break that silence. And so when Sunita asked me to speak right now, I thought that I should break that silence. And I urge all the students, research scholars, women teachers, women colleagues in the non-teaching staff, every woman in the university to break that silence. Because silence sometimes is powerful, but silence is also lethal. And I would think that all of us should fight against this silence. I would like to also think that the men, all the male members of the university community must realize that they are only half if they do not accept that the women, the other half, are an important force in the university. It is good to see women like Sunita and Padmaja at offices that are quite high in the university. It is wonderful to have heard Devarajan Garu and Sankumi Garu also speak and to see them in such high positions. Yes, women have achieved high positions, but there are 90% of the women who still need to voice their concerns. There are women who have to speak out. There are women who have to go beyond the four walls of the house. Yes, women do go to work, but that is extremely out of economic necessity. It is only out of economic necessity. The minute they come back home, it's back to the drudge. And I think that is where, as both the speakers today have said, and the Vice Chancellor also has said in his remark, the men have to come and move along with the women. You know, there are no specific chores that women can do that men cannot do, or there are no chores that men can do that women cannot do. And therefore, every chore has to be divided. Every chore, every woman's aspirations, desires, everything should be looked into very, very carefully. There are no limits to the sky. And as Divya Garu was talking about it, I was thinking of my own mother, who did not study beyond the 12th. But she always had this feeling that women should be educated. So our trust has a thrust on girl children, and especially from the disadvantaged community, to encourage them. My mother was an international bridge player, and everybody thinks that only men can have the brain to play bridge, as like a brainy bridge game. Okay, and she came from an extremely ultra conservative family, and yet she could do that. And given the opportunity, she could have done much more. I'm sure that there are many women like her even today. If my mother were alive, she would have been in her 90s. But I'm sure that there are women in their 19th year, who do not think about their own self-esteem. And I think what is important is for each woman to think of herself as an important individual and not as an appendage. Yes, we are daughters, we are proud to be. Yes, we are sisters, we are proud to be. Yes, we are wives, we are proud to be. Yes, we are mothers, grandmothers, we are proud to be. But we are individuals first, and all these later. And let us remember this. And I think while motherhood has to be celebrated, motherhood is an essential part of a woman. It is important for the woman to recognize her womanhood. And I think that is what is most important in the university. And I'm sure people like Sunita Rani, Deepa, and others in the Women's Studies department, Padmaja and others in the psychology department, and all my colleagues like Sirisha, Anna, and others in the English department would be emphasizing that women ought to speak out. We must speak out. We must speak out now. And that is what I would like to share with you. Once again, I thank you all very much. And I'm really happy because I have Sunita, who joined the department when I was already there, and we became very close friends. And we have the Dean Nagaraju Garu, with whom I have interacted a lot, because the Alladi Memorial Trust has collaborative lectures that is arranged in the university, and he has been a part of the people who have always attended that trust. And what can I say of Padmaja, who was my first batch students in Women's College, Koti. So I'm very happy that I've been able to interact with all of you, and I thank Professor Rao Garu for giving me this opportunity to see him, though not in person, but on what is now become a very favorite thing, the virtual reality. But let us not talk about virtual realities of women, but the realities of women to become very powerful. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you very much for saying once again that silence has to be broken. Silence has to be shattered. Silence, very true, as you said. Silence can be a choice. Silence can be power. Silence can be protest. But it is important to break that silence and speak as well. I completely agree with you that we are all proud of the roles that we play, that are given to us, that we have assumed, that we have accepted. But at the same time, we are not just our roles. We shouldn't be reducing ourselves to our roles, but should be proudly celebrating our dignity as individuals. Thank you so much, Uma, once again. Now, may I request Professor Nagaraju to give his message?
Thank you very much, madam. At the outset, I'm thankful to Professor Sunita Rani Garu for giving me this opportunity. It's a great privilege to speak in front of some of the luminaries in the field of English literature, as well as science and technology, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao sir, and Professor Alladi Mama madam. She was almost like my teacher. And also both the guests, Dr. Miss Divya Devraj Garu and Sankumi Garu. So the idea of celebrating Women's Day is a part of the university gained momentum in the context of celebrating multiple epistemologies, which are primarily a byproduct of women, wherein the university as an institution need to map out what are the multiple debates which are primarily introduced by the women faculty members across the branches of knowledge on the campus. So we, as a scholars, teachers, and the administrators on the campus, we thought that we need to include the faculty members from different branches of knowledge to pay as well as remember the great contributions of women. So therefore, in this context, myself and Professor Padmaja madam and my colleague, Dr. Santosh, all of us, we have discussed about the week-long events, and we have presented in front of our Honorable Vice Chancellor. He has immediately agreed to take forward our proposal. So that is the context in which we have started the 1 week celebrations as a part of the International Women's Day. So as what we thought is, let us invite the scholars from School of Humanities, School of Social Sciences, and the different schools in the science branches. As our Divya Garu rightly mentioned, so the women and science is one of the important themes which are always known for, which is always referred as a kind of a glass ceiling phenomena until recently. Thanks to the efforts of the Indian freedom fighters and the policy makers and the great educationalists, the post-independent India has trained number of women who successfully became the professors, scientists, doctors, and whatnot. They are there everywhere, from the earth to the sky. We can see large number of pilots who are coming from India. So therefore, it implies that we thought of, let's say, having a session on women and STEM. So we have invited scholars from different branches of science fields. So we request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, to spend some time on that particular day, sir. So we are going to share other details. And also, in order to remember and recollect the literature primarily cultivated by the women, so we had planned one more program titled Women and Literature, especially from the humanities. We are going to have one more session. We have also planned another session on women and empowerment, where the scholars from the social sciences are going to share their thoughts. So we're talking about the women empowerment. The women empowerment is primarily an human empowerment. That's how I understand the idea of women empowerment. The reason is that when you're talking about the men and women, the idea of men is exclusive, whereas the idea of women is very much inclusive as well as encompassing in nature. So therefore, friends, when you look at the science and technology, literature and culture, according to some of the, let's say, feminist scholars, the women played the central role in pre-modern era with reference to the science and civilization as well as the culture. So the point is that it is the time to recollect and remember and map out what are the multiple contributions of women in diverse fields of knowledge and what kind of role they have played in making of the civilization and culture in a much more humanitarian manner. So there are number of people who are coming from the first generation background. All of them are basically the byproduct of their mother. Because of their mother's commitment towards the education of the boys and girls, and because of their determination to see the empowerment in their family. So most of the people, they came to the university level and they became a successful people. So therefore, friends, this is a great time, and it's time to celebrate and time to remember the great contributions of women in the field of the history, culture, and civilization. And we need to remember the past envisages the future. So the meaningful future is possible only through the lens of women. Then, so the peace is going to be guaranteed whenever we involve the women as a policy makers. So therefore, therefore, we need to have a kind of a balanced approach towards the study of higher educational institutions. It is the responsibility of the higher educational institutions to provide not only the equality of opportunities, but also the equality of conditions to realize the women empowerment in a truest sense. So I thank Dr. Padmaja Garu and Professor Sunita Rani Madam and our beloved leader and guide and mentor, Professor Bijay Rao sir, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nagaraj Garu. 3 different speakers, all in different capacities, but all of them being activists, trying to connect their field and society. All the 3 of them were very inspiring in their own way. I think this is the right way to start celebrating the International Women's Day. Celebrating, I mean it in the sense remembering women's work, women's contribution, women's activism, women's histories, the difference that they have made, not in the traditional stereotypical roles, but even breaking those roles, breaking the stereotypes, crossing all barriers, all obstacles, and reaching their goals, achieving their ambitions, and proving themselves to themselves, not to others, and answering with their deeds the questions that were raised about their capabilities, about their, mettle to achieve things. I'm glad our university is not turning pink to celebrate Women's Day like it is done in media and everywhere. I'm glad our university is not celebrating the deified, glorified, romanticized roles that are given, that are inflicted on women. I'm glad our university is celebrating the achievements of women, those achievements that are like that have made a difference. Again and again, I'm saying this, I mean it, that have made a difference. Just because a few women are able to speak, like Uma said, are able to break silence and peace, reach the positions and speak with people, it doesn't mean that all women are liberated, all women are emancipated. At the same time, it doesn't mean that women have no agency at all. But let International Women's Day be a move towards solidarity of all genders. I do not want to look at gender as a binary, just as men and women. Let it be a solidarity, a movement, a move towards solidarity of all genders and dignity for all identities. And I cannot but think of, like, on one hand, while those designated as women are fighting to get rid of the stereotyped roles, on the other hand, there are those individuals who are fighting to become women, battling to become women, trans women. So my heart goes to them as well, like all women, all genders who are fighting for equality and dignity. Let me end on this note by thanking our Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao, for making this event possible, and also Professor Nagaraju and Professor Padmaja for collaborating with Center for Women's Studies and again making this event possible. Thank you so much once again, and thanks to all the speakers. Madam Sankumi is still here. Thank you so much, Madam. My dear colleague and friend and an inspiring personality in my life, Uma, thank you so much. And Miss Divya Devarajan, who left after giving a very inspiring message, thank you so much. And all the audience who have been with us throughout the event, thank you once again. May I now request Professor Padmaja to propose vote of thanks as it is mentioned in the program sheet, please.
So yeah, I think we formally let's propose the vote of thanks as Professor Sunita Rani has pointed out. Well, on behalf of the Office of DSW, on behalf of the Dean Student Welfare, and on my personal behalf of as Deputy Dean Student Welfare, we are thankful to Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor B.J. Rao sir for his valuable presence through and through today throughout the program. That shows the importance that he has given to the whole program, and of course his words of wisdom. I also thank Pro Vice Chancellor Professor Sarraju sir. Though he could not attend today this program, he has encouraged us, the whole DSW team, and thank you sir for the same. We thank Madam Divya Devarajan Garu, IAS, who was the chief guest today, who portrayed her own journey and also her mother's journey, both of them with the strength, with compassion, with the psychological strength that they have shown and have proved to be successful in their respective lives, not only career-wise, but also Divya Devarajan's mother, Ms. Divya Devarajan's mother, has shown her success in bringing up a child who is a role model to several. So the mother and the child are in themselves role models. I also thank Madam Sankumi. Madam, I am extremely thankful to you, both you and Madam Divya Devarajan. Immediately, you have consented, both of you, for my request when I asked you, when I talked to you. Madam Sankumi's portrayal of her achievements, and especially the hurdles and obstacles that she has been talking about, and the way she was able to transcend all these with the courage and perseverance and bringing her team together. She was repeatedly pointing out to the valuable support and cooperation of her colleagues, especially towards the end. Well, the way she was able to achieve all these was highly inspirational. Thank you, Madam. Professor Uma Madam, very close to my heart, very rightly was, as always, was articulate and straight in pointing out to us the importance of breaking the silence as a part of the empowerment of self. Let us not lose our own identity. We live for the others. We are good at multitasking. We are along with the others. But our own self-esteem and identity are at the same time of prime importance, is what Madam has pointed out. I totally agree with you, Madam. Thank you, Professor Nagaraju sir, for being the man behind these celebrations, Women's Day celebrations, and for all the encouragement to our DSW team. And I thank Professor Sunita Rani, my friend, very close friend of mine, who conducted the whole program very effectively, presiding over it. And the way she has conducted the whole program has been very inspirational. In last but not the least, I think we should thank the DSW's office, the PRO's office, the finance officer's office, and the VC's office, of course, and Sanjay Sharma ji, everyone. And if I have missed out on anyone, I still would like to add them, though I'm not naming them. They're all a part of this. Thanks They're all, we profusely thank each and everyone who have supported us. And this is not the least, today is only the beginning. It's a week-long program that we are going to have, as Professor Nagaraju sir has rightly pointed out. So we eagerly anticipate and await the successful conduct of the whole week-long program. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, madam. Unmute better, sir.
You're welcome.